Open your banking app right now and look at the balance. If you felt nothing, no spike of dread, no quick anxious math, that's the first sign, and almost nobody realizes it. There's a specific moment that happens to people who end up wealthy, and it isn't a big paycheck or a windfall. It's smaller and stranger than that. It's the first time you look at your own money the way you'd check the weather. That moment usually arrives years before the money does. Because here's the thing almost nobody tells you. Wealth doesn't announce itself with a bang. It shows up as a series of small, quiet changes in how you behave. And by the time the balance actually looks impressive, those changes have been happening for years. So today, I want to give you 7 of them. 7 signs you're quietly getting richer, even if your account doesn't look like it yet. And the 7th separates people who become wealthy from people who merely look it. Let me be honest with you first. This is not a video designed to make you feel good about being broke. Some of these signs can absolutely show up in someone who's struggling, and none of them pay your rent this month. What they are is early evidence, the behavioral fingerprints that show up in people before the money arrives, and almost never in people who stay stuck. Think of it like a doctor reading a scan. The scan doesn't make you healthy. It just tells you which direction your body is heading. That's what these are. So let's build them from the ground up. Sign number 1. Money stopped being emotional. This is the one I opened with, and it's the most underrated shift there is. For most people, money is a feeling before it's a number, a tightness when the card is tapped, a small flinch before opening the banking app, a low background hum of anxiety that never fully goes away. When that hum starts to quiet, something structural has changed underneath. It usually means you've built a small buffer, and that buffer has removed money from the emotional part of your brain and moved it into the boring administrative part. You're not fearless, you're just no longer flinching. And people who don't flinch make far better decisions than people who do, which is exactly why this sign tends to arrive first and drag the others along behind it. Sign number 2. You stopped performing. There's a moment where you realize you genuinely don't care what your car says about you. Not in a bitter way, not as a cope. You just stopped running the calculation of what other people would think. Most spending isn't about the object at all. It's rent paid to an audience. The watch, the badge on the car, the label on the bag. A huge amount of that is a message being sent to people who, honestly, are thinking about themselves. When you stop paying that rent, an enormous amount of money quietly stays in your account without you feeling like you sacrificed anything. And that last part is crucial. It doesn't feel like discipline. It feels like relief. Sign number 3. The boring choice stopped feeling like a loss. Early on, choosing the sensible option feels like losing. You cook at home and it feels like a punishment. You keep the old phone and it feels like falling behind. But at some point, the arithmetic flips and the sensible choice starts feeling good. Not virtuous, just correct, the way tightening a loose screw feels correct. That flip matters more than any single decision because it means the behavior no longer requires willpower, and anything that requires willpower eventually fails. Anything that doesn't runs forever. Sign number 4, and stay with me because this is where these stop being small and start compounding. Your time horizon got longer. Most people, without ever deciding to, live in 2-week increments. The next paycheck, this month's bills, what's in the account right now. Ask them what they want their money to look like in 10 years, and you'll get a shrug. Not because they don't care, but because nobody ever taught them the question was available. Getting wealthy involves a quiet lengthening of that window. You start thinking in years. You catch yourself wondering what something will be worth in a decade instead of what it costs today. Nothing about your income has to change for this to happen. But the moment your planning window stretches past your pay cycle, you begin making an entirely different category of decision. And those are the decisions that money actually responds to. Sign number 5. You know your number. Not roughly, actually. You could tell me right now, within a reasonable margin, what you own and what you owe. This sounds trivial, and it is absolutely not, because the single most common trait among people who stay broke on good incomes is that they genuinely do not know. They avoid the number because looking at it feels like judgment, and you cannot fix what you refuse to look at. The willingness to look, plainly, without flinching, notice how this connects back to sign 1, is itself the thing that starts the change. Most people find their finances improve within months of simply beginning to measure them before they've changed a single habit. Attention alone does a shocking amount of the work. Sign number 6. Emergencies became inconveniences. The car breaks down, the tooth needs work, the boiler dies. For most of your life, those events are catastrophes. They cascade, they go on a credit card, they take months to recover from. And then, one day, something breaks, and you notice that you're annoyed rather than frightened. That is an enormous shift, and it's not just about the money you have on hand. It's that you've stopped being fragile. Nothing destroys wealth faster than being forced to make desperate decisions. And a buffer's real job isn't the money. It's buying you the ability to never be desperate. And sign number 7, the one that separates people who become wealthy from people who merely look it. Your income went up, and your life didn't. This is the final boss, and almost everyone loses to it. The raise arrives, and within about 3 months, the nicer apartment arrives with it, and the better car, and the upgraded everything. And the person is now earning significantly more while saving exactly the same amount as before, which is to say, none. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it's the reason you will meet people earning 3 times what you earn who are 3 times more stressed about money. If your income has grown and your monthly spending stayed roughly flat, you have done the single hardest thing in personal finance. That gap between what you now earn and what you still spend is the entire mechanism. It is the only raw material wealth is ever built from. Now step back and look at all 7 together, because there's a pattern hiding in them, and it's the actual point of this video. Not one of these signs is about how much money you have. Not one. Every single one is about your relationship to money, how you feel about it, how far ahead you look, whether you can stand to measure it, whether you spend it on strangers' opinions. Which means all 7 can be true of someone with a very ordinary income, and none of them are guaranteed to be true of someone with a large one. This is why wealth so often looks invisible. The person quietly building it doesn't look different from you. They just stopped flinching, stopped performing, started measuring, and let the gap between earning and spending do its slow work in the background. So here's what I want you to take from this. Count how many of the 7 are already true for you. If it's 3 or 4, you are already partway through a change most people never start. And the ones you're missing aren't character flaws, they're just the next ones to build. And if it's 0, that's not a verdict either, because every person who has all 7 had 0 at some point, usually while feeling exactly as stuck as you might feel right now. These aren't traits you're born with, they're behaviors, and behaviors are learnable, one at a time, starting with whichever one you just read and thought, that one, actually, I could do that one. Because the money is the last thing to arrive. It always is. The signs come first, quietly, years ahead. And if you're noticing them in yourself right now, then the balance hasn't caught up yet, but you're already on your way. If this made you count something in your own life, subscribe. The next video is about the millionaire you walk past every single day without ever noticing. I'll see you there.